The Marc Cox Show on FM News Talk 97.1, 98.7, AM 1490, and 97.1talk.com.
The evolving and eroding level of trust as a result of this situation and a series of other questionable instances is what led the president to ask for General Flynn's resignation. Immediately after the Department of Justice notified the White House counsel of the situation, the White House counsel briefed the president and a small group of his senior advisors. The White House counsel reviewed and determined that there is not an illegal issue, but rather a trust issue.
You know you're semi-good looking and on the streets again.
You like our Valentine Day music selection there, huh? How about that? Mix in a little Van Halen. We got some good choices for you today. Rose is going to be spinning them over there. Don't worry about that, so stick around for that. That's Sean Spicer just a few minutes ago, addressing immediately the General Flynn issue. He hasn't started taking questions yet. He's still reading from his prepared remarks. Right now he's talking about Betsy DeVos and what the president's goal is with the school system in America. In fact, I got some sound from earlier when the president was talking with Betsy DeVos and some women in the room about education and fixing the education system. But right now, Rose, we have a guest in the studio. Could you hit the stinger for me?
Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man?
Shut! Christopher, how are you?
I'm good, man. I have no rhythm whatsoever.
No? I don't even try. I can play a little air guitar, but that'll be about all you'll see.
None.
Yeah.
I think that what Rose played, that album is their best album, and then 1984.
Yeah, I love those two. Okay. I'm equally love 5150 and some of the Sammy Hagar stuff. So. Yeah. I have to tell you, you're an originalist. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm kind of partial to 1984 because that's the year I graduated high school.
So. Okay. Not that you're dating yourself or anything, but somebody's got to date you, so there you go. Oh, but
that was good.
How are you?
That was good.
I think Rose liked my joke. Thank you, Rose.
It took me about 3 seconds to get it. Did you come up with that yourself? That was very witty.
I did. Thank you.
Very
I appreciate that.
Very
occasionally one comes out of there.
Very witty.
Yeah. My wife would say he's been using that for years. Don't let him get away with that. So you obviously watched the General Flynn thing melt down overnight. They've just they're starting to ask questions now to Sean Spicer. It's all about Flynn. They're asking, what did you know before he was appointed about his connections to the Russians? I don't know if you heard the bite I played earlier. Elijah Cummings is now trying to play up some meeting he had with Putin like 2 years ago or something like that and act like it just happened. Everybody knew about all of that prior to him being appointed National Security Advisor. What's your take?
Mark, this is turning into a cluster, and I don't mean bombs.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
I think this is what happens when you put a Democrat in your administration. You know, General Flynn is a Democrat. I think people kind of forget that.
I like that. I like that approach.
But yeah, this has turned into a cluster. We've had John Cornyn, who's second in leadership, has called for an investigation. We had our own Senator Blunt, who's on the Intelligence Committee, call for an investigation. Your favorite senator, Lindsey Graham, who I'm sure we're not surprised is jumping on this and is calling for an investigation. And Paul Ryan, for some reason, has not. Now, is this a thing to his buddy, Reince Priebus, to not jump on?
Why would you say that? Here's part of what Ryan said about it this morning.
National security is perhaps the most important function or responsibility a president has. And I think the president made the right decision to ask for his resignation. You cannot have a national security advisor misleading the vice president and others. So I think the president was right to ask for his resignation.
Yeah, but he's not calling for an investigation. We're having senators that are calling for investigations. He's saying that he did the right thing resigning, but he stopped short of saying this needs to be investigated.
I think that what Spicer said earlier kind of sums it up, that nobody at the White House, although they've known about this for a week or a couple of weeks, nobody at the White House and even the White House legal counsel didn't see it as a legal issue. That wasn't their problem. It's more of an ethical issue of him not being completely honest about the conversations he'd had. And once they realized it, they asked him to step down. I just think it's clear what happened here, and that the other side is just trying to make political hay out of it. If it was the other way around and it was the Republicans, we'd be doing the exact same thing. And I'm just happy to admit that we would. Yeah. It's rough and tumble politics in Washington. The difference now is that the opposition party, which is the Democrats, have their own political action committee, which is the mainstream media working on their side. And this will be in the news cycle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, suggesting somehow that first thing they're going to say is that General Flynn is the stepbrother of Vladimir Putin, and this never came out, and that Donald Trump knew it, and that he got the birth announcement and all. I mean, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. It's going to be an avalanche.
In General Flynn's defense, it does bother me that they are trying to paint him as some traitor to his country. And this is a four-star general, man who served his country, loves his country. He may have made a mistake doing what he did, but the inference they're trying to put out there that he's some traitor to his country, to me, is unfortunate.
30 years.
Yeah.
Special forces in this country. And they're questioning his patriotism. They're questioning whether or not he was somehow colluding with the Russians.
Yeah. And what this has also brought about for the Democrats, now we're hearing calls again for Donald Trump to release his tax returns to see if he has any business ties or with Russia.
His tax returns wouldn't show anything about Russia.
I'm going to tell you what scares me and keeps me up late at night is that Vladimir Putin at some opportune time is going to release something and say, hey, America, guess what? Donald Trump has closer ties to me and Russia than we all thought. He may be holding on to that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Look, I voted for Donald Trump. I didn't support him during the primary, but I want to see him succeed because he's our president and because I voted for him. But something just doesn't exactly sit right with me.
Don't buy into this because they've repeated this often enough from the left. From, as I mentioned earlier, Elijah Cummings claiming that Flynn went and got paid, won't tell us how much he got paid, what did he know, and when did he know it. They're rolling out the Whitewater stuff. They're trying to link it back to the hacking thing and. Was Flynn giving him details on how to hack into the DNA? That'll be the next allegation. I mean, it's just going to keep rolling. But what I'm saying to my listeners is don't buy into this. Flynn worked for the Obama administration at one point, correct?
Right. He was a Democrat.
He still is a Democrat to the best of our knowledge. At one point, he toyed with running for president. Right. Remember that? Yeah. And this is much ado about nothing. This is politics. The goal of the left right now is to do any and everything they have to do, from inorganic organized protests in the streets at every event, at every town hall they can get to lawsuits, to activist Democratic attorneys general trying to tie up everything he does in court. This is part of their strategy to try to slow down this freight train that is the Trump train. And they're not going to have any luck doing it, I don't think. But it is going to be a distraction. And for people who've listened to it enough, I'm afraid they're going to buy into some of this.
Well, at this stage, Mark, the Trump train is being derailed by the Trumpsters. You've got Kellyanne Conway yesterday. Well, go back a second. What her mistake that she made doing the commercial for Ivanka. And then yesterday you had Kellyanne saying that General Flynn has the full faith and confidence of the president, and then 2 hours later he's fired. I mean, so it just makes her look like it's out of the loop, and does the right hand know what the left hand is doing?
And here's the thing. This is the establishment in Washington, as much as the Democrats, attacking an administration that is made up of outsiders who haven't spent their entire lives in public service, enough to the point where you're going to know the minute detail of the ethics law that if you're working for an administration, you can't even suggest jokingly that somebody go out and buy a product. Now, that was an offhanded comment,
but, Kelly,
but people have acted like she's committed fraud, major fraud, and they called for an investigation of Kellyanne Conway. For God's sake. It doesn't matter what it is, how small the transgression, they're out for blood.
Kellyanne Conway is a very shrewd political operative that's been in politics for a long time. I think she got cocky first because she was on Fox News Sunday, on Fox News, and that's a friendly audience. And I think for a split second she forgot this isn't the campaign. That, we're in office now. I can't say things like that. I mean,
But you don't think that she said it on purpose to try to get business for Ivanka Trump?
No, but I think it's an unforced error from a person
it's
that is
certainly an unforced error.
A person that's been in politics for a long time, and I've met her. She's very shrewd, very smart woman, and to make a mistake like that,
all right,
it's troubling.
Let's get to a break. Chris, we'll be back in the next segment. We're going to be joined by Todd Graves, who's one of the new leader of the Missouri Republican Party, right?
State chair, yes.
To kind of find out what his plans are and what he's trying to do now that he's got super majorities in both houses and the governor's office. What are the plans of the statewide party? We'll have that and much more. 314-969-9797.
I stood and looked down.
You're listening to The Marc Cox Show. Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Weather with Dave Murray.
Partly sunny skies, slightly warmer this afternoon.